And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to Red Hoop Talk. I'm Roy Melendez, and my friend and sister here.
Hi, I'm Shannon O'Loughlin from the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. My friend Roy over there is Caddo from, I don't know where the hell he's from. He's somewhere.
We're from Louisiana. The rest of the families in Oklahoma and in the Anadarko area, and then the rest of us stayed in Louisiana back in the homeland. So our homeland is Louisiana. So with that, we want to say the first thing is we want to say thank you to the tribes and the people, the first people of our lands that we stand on in California and in Baltimore, Maryland, which is where my sister Shannon is from.
I'm a little south of Baltimore, but yeah, we'll take it.
So the first people we want to say thank you to the first people of California and Maryland and the lands that we stand and honor those people.
Piscataway tribes. And we've got a bunch of Okies with us, so we're not going to be the only Okies on this.
We got a fellow Okie coming on, and on top of being an Okie, he's a homeboy here in California too. So he's going to be representing the hood here locally. So we got some things in common. And the other thing is it's not another woman to gang up on me today. We actually got a man on the show. It's been the woman's show every single week. So I got a man to hang out with me this week. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, I thought I'd try to give a little balance every once in a while, at least. But y'all are going to love Brian. Brian's a great friend to the Association on American Indian Affairs. And I think you'll like him, Roy. I think y'all will have a lot in common.
Y'all fix and have some good times here with Brian, y'all.
Oh, good God. So did you get a chance to watch that zombie movie, that Indian zombie movie, Blood Quantum?
I didn't watch the zombie movie because I'm binging on like some like crazy cool shows, and I wish I could tell you the name of it right now. It's like after I'm like a fantasy / sci-fi dude. I like the knights and swords and shit. I like to see all that stuff, and they got this new one out, and it's like the what do you call it, the Anglos and the Saxons and the wars of England going on, and they're all hacking each other up. There's nothing better than seeing a bunch of Europeans hack each other up with swords and shit. I love it. So I'm watching one of those shows right now.
Is it a cool Viking show where the women have really cool haircuts and stuff?
Yeah, haircuts, yeah.
That no one would have ever had back then, right?
Yeah, they're all hot too. They're hot. But even the hot. But what's funny is everyone always dies. So like, they're hot. You get the hot girl comes on, and then she gets her head cut off like within 3 or 4 episodes. So it's a shame. They keep bringing them on and killing them, but it's okay as long as they keep recycling them. I'm good with it.
Well, I tell you that the Indian zombie movie, you got to watch some native movies here. It's extremely gory, but you can you got to support our native filmmakers and actors and actresses out there. Man, it was gory as hell. There was symbolism coming out of everyone's orifice in that movie.
I'll check it out. No, I'll check it out. But check out our buddy Chad here in the chat room. He said The Last Kingdom. The new season just came out. So that's it. It's The Last Kingdom. That's the one I'm watching. So say there's some Skin Brothers in here watching The Last Kingdom, man. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So anyway, so how about some news? We got some some news. Wait, quick shout out to the chat room. I just pulled up Chad, but we've got him. He's from Houston, and we got somebody from Colorado in there. So we got some people from all over the country starting to pop in and show up to the show. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That's what gets our viewership going. And tell all your peoples about it if you like what we're doing. If not, then hit the thumbs down button and go away and don't come see us no more.
No, we want to hear your shit too.
Don't go in the chat room or go in the comments and talk shit, because that's the worst part about this whole thing, is having to deal with all the negative stuff.
I thought you invited that. You wanted to hear some good negativity, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and Brian, by the way, Brian mentioned something about potentially having like a free a gift for a good question that came from folks who were watching. So stick around. Our guest Brian may have something to give. I've got something to share with everyone. It's on the share screen, Roy. Can you bring it up?
See. Let me bring it up. Here we go.
Yeah. So tonight at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, so that's 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, free live streaming concert that includes Buffy Sainte-Marie, one of my favorite musical icons, going to be playing live for folks there in New Mexico to raise some money for COVID relief. So I want to make sure you all are aware of that and maybe watch that after you're done with us.
Sweet.
Yeah, and there's some also, I'm sure everyone is aware of this. Let me bring something else up. Hold on. I'm sure everyone is aware of the all the social distance powwows.
Yeah. Let me pull that up.
Bring that up. So I'm sure everyone's been on these, but everyone's coming up with their social distance powwow, and there's so much going on online and on Facebook, and I hope everyone gets a chance to search and look at what's going on out there. So those were just a couple of things I wanted to make sure folks knew about. And of course, COVID still is raging. The number of cases daily in Indian country is increasing exponentially. So we haven't hit that high plateau in Indian country. It's still going strong. And what surprised me about the numbers with COVID in Indian country were where the cases were as far as age groups, because I was thinking that the majority of cases would be with our older elders, and it was actually 18 to 44-year-olds are the largest group that are infected. There's about 1,683 cases of COVID in our 18 to 44-year-old category, and second is 45 to 64 category are the two biggest ones. But Navajo is still the hardest hit. But there are so many numbers in Indian country we still don't know yet, because tribes don't have the capacity or the and folks aren't in the state and other local healthcare. They're not keeping track of native cases. They're just taking care of cases. I know there seems to be a little glitch. Are you okay over there?
I don't know what's going on with it. It's the strangest thing, because it's every time, I don't have any problems anytime else except for when we go on the stream here. I get this little funky glitch. Let me jump out real quick and see if I could jump out and jump back in and see if that fixes anything.
Okay.
Right.
Well, it looks like we'll have to do some technical fixing between now and our next show. But let me keeping on with the news. There's one casino for sure that I heard was going to open next week, and it's a casino in Washington. And it got me to thinking about how important casinos are and the income they generate are. And most people don't understand Indian gaming at all. What do you know much about Indian gaming, Roy? I mean, you're there in California. There's a lot of tribal.
Well, when you say what do I know about it, what do you mean? What might I know about it?
What's your favorite game?
You know what? Here's the thing with me, and when it comes to gaming, I worked hard for my money all my life, and I'm no good at gambling. I can't play cards. I'm real bad at the maths and all that kind of stuff. So I don't gamble, but I look at them as far as, economically being an important part of the Native community, because it has given a lot of tribes some freedoms and some ability to do some things that they may not have ever been able to do in the past. I know that just like anything, especially when it comes to financial advancement, that it brings its problems and it brings its issues, and it sometimes money like that does things to people, and and greed sets in, and no matter who you are or how you may be or whatever, corruption happens, and some people win and some people lose, and that's the thing I hate about the zero sum game, is that in order for somebody to gain, somebody has to lose, and so I have mixed feelings about the whole thing. But I know that it has brought some relief to some tribes that have desperately needed it. And some of them are very independent now because of it. And a lot of good things have come. I've seen what my cousin's done out there in Shakopee, and what she's done with the medical center and all the things that they've done with their tribe. But I'm sure it doesn't come without costs. So, I have mixed feelings about it.
Well, it's incredible. So when I was, I don't know if you know this or not, because I don't think we talked much when I was at the National Indian Gaming Commission. So I served as a chief of staff at the National Indian Gaming Commission for a few years. And I was always one of those kind of grassroots folks. I was never, I kind of stayed away from Indian gaming and the attorneys that worked on Indian gaming issues, and really focused more on grassroots stuff. But when I was able to serve in the National Indian Gaming Commission, I was amazed with the beautiful stories of cultural revitalization and how tribes and even towns and surrounding communities were completely transformed because of jobs and the economy. So it wasn't just gaming alone that grew around the facilities, but it was a lot of entrepreneurship and other types of business and sales that would never have come but for gaming. And what I think a lot of people don't understand about gaming is that it's not corporate gaming. It's not Atlantic City. It's not Vegas. Though every dollar is guarded and regulated and has to be spent on tribal governance, and also has to go for charitable use. So when Indian gaming's not doing well, like right now with everything shut down, tribes don't have government services. Tribes don't have funding to give to charitable organizations like the Association on American Indian Affairs and many others. So health.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I never thought about the strangle. Well, I mean, obviously this COVID is touching everything, and it just it bears to mind that it's going to happen. That's it's going to choke that off also. So yeah, it's
and it's huge. And there's a really good article here. I've got it up on the share screen. If folks want to look at it, it's actually from ABC News, and it was really well written about casino funds. Casinos fund what the government doesn't, and now they're closed. So it's a really good article from ABC News. It's a little bit dated, but has a lot of good information, and it comes from some of our friends from the Muskogee Creek Nation as well. So if you get a chance, try to read that. Hey, what do you think? What else we got going on, Roy? Anything else happen interesting this week? Or
did we talk about Trumpo the clown going to Navajo and
oh my God. He didn't go to Navajo. He went to what, Phoenix?
He went to Arizona, and then he
to hang out with Honeywell,
and then he could make a mask, and he was running around without a mask, and then he claimed or made some kind of grandstand or given some money to Navajo land or something, right?
Well, so it was supposed to be a tribal leaders meeting, and for some reason there was only, I think there's 22 federally recognized tribes in Arizona. There were only 2 tribal leaders there. One was the vice chair of the Navajo Nation, and the other was the governor from Gila River, I believe.
Well, shit, we had 2 there.
What's that?
I said we had 2 there at least.
Yeah, there were 2, and
that's
and so he was grandstanding, and it seemed to kind of be planned that way because it was when Treasury was releasing 60% of the 8 billion that is supposed to have already been released to tribes. It was supposed to have been released to tribes a few weeks ago. And because Treasury wanted to give the money to Alaska Native corporations, which are state corporations, they're not tribal governments. And a court recently said the same thing. Trump kind of used this as, this is the most money that any administration has ever give to Indian country.
So once again, Indian people had to suffer so that they can grandstand and hand the money out in a grandiose way or whatever to get some kind of a what do you call it, a photo shoot or they call that something whatever is a publicity opportunity or whatever. So
yeah, it's rhetoric. And we have to remember, though, and I can't remember if you told me this or if someone else did, but a lot of this rhetoric that we get on Twitter and elsewhere really is a distraction to where we really should be spending our time. While all this is going on, he's eliminating a lot of environmental regulations. He's eliminating tribal consultation on the destruction of sacred sites, among other things. I mean, what's going on in this country, kind of beyond what the media tends to focus on, is horrendous.
Yeah, it's going to take years to get back the ground that was already gotten,
Yeah.
It's a sad, sucky situation, that's for sure.
Yeah, but maybe that's a good transition to bring in Brian, and he can uplift us a little bit from this shit.
It is. And on a good note, they arrested those 2 guys that shot that young man. Not that it's Indian country news, but I heard that they arrested those guys that were racial profiling that young gentleman that was running, and they shot him, and now they finally arrested him after like a month.
Oh, good God.
It's crazy. It's so sad to see that stuff. But so many times and there's so many dead Native people on the reses and elsewhere that it's never been reported, that nobody ever knows about it, where this stuff was done. This stuff has been going on and still does go on to this day. And it's just more prominent now because we have social media and we have, of course, some people today are feeling emboldened to go out there and go ahead and hunt down people because of the color of their skin, or they don't like them for whatever it is the culture that they don't like. It's still there, and it's still happening, and it still happens at an alarming rate in Indian country. That's for sure.
And there's a lot of, there's human trafficking and sex trade, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and boys. The horrendous nature of our neighbors sometimes shocks the hell out of me. Yeah. And it's hard to believe that these things still continue in this wonderful free country that we live in.
All right. Well, not to be a downer, I just wanted to kind of say there's a little good of news on that front. But let's go ahead and bring our guest on. And he's a friend of yours, so why don't you go ahead and let us know who he is and bring him up.
Yeah. So my friend who I first got to know when the Association on American Indian Affairs was having its, I think, 96th annual meeting. And we invited Brian to be one of our entertainers and to kind of MC our annual meeting and event. And, I had talked to him on the phone. He had been highly recommended by folks up at Forest County, Potawatomi in Wisconsin. And so this is how we work in Indian country with business relationships. Hey, if someone that you love and care about recommends someone that you should work with, you just hire them. And I was so blown away by Brian Frejo and his talent and the way he, I hadn't connected at such a heart level for a long time until that night with Brian Frejo and his song. So with that, he's done a lot of good work in Indian country with youth, and I really want you all to get to know him and his story and what he does. So let's bring him in.
Brian Frejo, how you doing, hot brother?
He better be there. Where'd you go, Brian? Uh-oh.
He's there. He just froze. Hold on. Let me pull him down again and see if I can bring him back up.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. There must be a lot of people online tonight. Brian!
Brian, did we lose you, brother?
Let me check my text.
He's been backstage walking around and working with his audio and getting all of his stuff ready. And now all of a sudden his stream died.
He might need to get out and then come back up, maybe.
There he is. Hey, we got you back, Brian.
How's it going? I'm representing that's
yeah, what's up?
Quarantine lifestyle here. And the red for the MMNA, MMIW. We're sharing a lot of information right here. So I don't know what happened. Right when you were about to put me on, it went off. So
yeah, as soon as I brought you up, you froze. Poof.
Well, I think I'm good. I think we're good right now.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're wearing that mask because, I didn't want you to think we're in the same room together. Really, I mean, we're got some distance between us. We're social distancing.
Yeah, we are. We're being safe. How's it going? I'm enjoying the show so far.
Good. So, Brian, just tell us a little. You're Pawnee and Seminole. You're a fellow Okie. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Oklahoma, or kind of what got you on the road you're on today.
First thing I want to do is just say Noah Iri, thank you. Dura chicks to who Tirawa Tatua Yusta and Hidimahe Mado. It's good to be here today with you guys on Red Hoop Talk. It's an honor to be a part of your program. I watched the first program and what you told me. So I want to share this right here because we're doing a lot of things during this quarantine. I want to send this smoke up for you guys and your show as we use these medicines, during these times like this that we go through as human beings, as Native people, our communities, our families. And these are some of the things that I was raised on, these teachings. Now they call it TK, or traditional knowledge. Everything is an acronym. So that's one of the things that they call it. But in our culture, it's our teachings. It's our ways, our traditional ways. A lot of different words that different tribes, different people use for it. So I was taught these things on my dad's side. That's the Skeety band of the Pawnee. That's the wolf band of the Pawnee people. Growing up in Oklahoma, Southern Plains, that area, a lot of my family, cousins in that area around Pawnee, Red Rock, outside of Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Shawnee, and then my mom's side, she's full-blood Seminole, so she came from the Wewoka area, and our families she's a Harjo, so we come from Nukazogi, and that's the Bear Clan people of the Seminole tribe. So we have a lot of relatives. My mom was a Harjo, related to Linas and Fixicos, the Woods. So our family's huge on my mom's side. We have a lot of cousins, a lot of relatives. So growing up around those ways, it really helped me as a young person, to see these things and hear these words and these teachings that were being passed down. I didn't know at the time they were passing it down. I just know that they shared a lot with me, and they tell me to sit down and listen, and they get over here, and they were really stern, back then. They had a way of talking to you, that made you listen, and times have changed. Now it's hard to kind of get some of our younger people to sit down and take the time, put the phones down, put everything down and talk and visit, listen. But I've been pretty blessed. A lot of people that I've met, a lot of programs that I work with, they bring their young people and they get them in a setting, environment that they're open to listen. And that's the biggest teaching that we can pass on, as we get older and we continue our journey, and then what we pass down to, our teachings, talk about the next 7 generations. So I really was glad to see you guys called this red hoop talk, that red hoop, that red road, that circle, that medicine wheel, all of those teachings, they're all connected. And behind you, Shannon, like your imagery back there, like we have a connection as Native people across all these lands, Native, Indigenous people, and our relatives, our connections. Some of our families may have traveled back in the day, have friends all over. I heard a lot of stories like that. So I kind of feel like that's what's happening now with us, is connecting, in our way. And then now doing this right here, virtually, being able to talk and share good words, share positive messages. And like, I like everything you guys are talking about. Before I got on, it's a lot of important information, as we go through this crisis, this pandemic, and this other challenge that we face as Native people. And you guys were talking about, what some of our communities are going through. So that's a little bit of introduction of, kind of how I got to where I am right now is the upbringing, that childhood upbringing and being around those doings and those teachings and what was shared with me. And then kind of, I guess, always having an interest in history and culture.
Yeah. Nice.
And I grew up right there in Seminole. So I went to Seminole High School, and a lot of hard joes and a lot of fixicos, and my family's last name was Willis, Choctaw, but I love Seminole. I still love Seminole, and did you know that there's Thai food in Seminole now?
I love Thai food. I didn't know that.
The old taco hut that my girlfriend used to work in, I think her name was Heidi, is now like a Mexican / American / Thai food place in Seminole, Oklahoma.
Oh man, I have to go there.
Sonic and Thai food, man. It's coming up. It's coming up.
Yeah,
because it's hard to find Thai places even in Oklahoma City. There's not that many.
Yeah. That's cool.
Good.
Yeah, I love Seminole, and I love your culture, and I was always fascinated with the ability of the women and to do that work that it's like quilt work, but it's like miniature. It's like teeny tiny. What is
patchwork?
Yeah, patchwork. That's what I was going to say, but I wasn't sure if that was right. So it's just freaking incredible and beautiful, and the stories that it told. I remember in school there was a lady that came. I must have been in 2nd or 3rd grade, and probably did stuff similar to what you do with youth. And she talked about that Seminole patchwork, and she told stories with those, with the colors and the different forms and shapes, and it was just so incredible to me. So I'm really glad to know you and to have you here, and also, if you do end up singing, I'm gonna really love to hear that music. But let's get on to the good stuff and not what I'm motivated to hear about. Sorry, Roy, I interrupted you earlier.
No, that's all right. No, I was just gonna, it's funny how, usually it's funny how every time somebody's coming on the show, we've had some kind of a tie. We talked to Brian a little before the show, a couple of days or yesterday. We talked to him for a few minutes just to say, hey, get things ready. And he was talking about, some family members that we know, because our communities are kind of small, like my cousin, the Edmonds family, they're all from the Anadarko area, and, and the Wichitas and the Pawnees and the Caddos, we all, intermingle, and we have, it's like everybody's a cousin, we got a cousin over here and a cousin over there. And yeah, that's my cousin. No, that's my cousin too. So we all end up, we both have the same cousins, and it's kind of cool how it all works out. Shannon went to school out there. I've got cousins that of, and of course, the Edmonds from out here too in California. We're out here in Cali, and they also, they're a big powwow family, and ran down south, down in San Diego, he was down there, and then now my cousin's back in Oklahoma. But we all have ties all the time. It's a small world.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of connections all across Indian country, from the inner cities to the urban communities, reservations. I even went up to Alaska in my work with tribes and communities, and I went for a week. No, I went for about a week and a half. We were kind of booked to go up there right around New Year's Eve. We did a big show in Fairbanks, and then we did a couple of events in the city of Fairbanks, and then they asked if I wanted to go to some villages, and I said, yeah, that sounds cool. He said, yeah, they want to bring you to a couple of villages. So I was going to 2 villages, and it turned into 6. So I ended up being in Alaska for 11 weeks.
Oh shit!
In January and February, in March, and it was
wow.
It was really a learning experience, and to see how the people, their subsistence way of living was just amazing. Living off the land, literally.
Yeah.
And their survival skills, in that kind of environment, that those temperatures and climate was. I don't really like the cold weather that much. It's okay. I like wearing big jackets and hoodies and stuff like that. But I don't really like being in the cold all the time. So I had to adapt pretty quickly. I went from like about 48 below all the way down to 68 below zero while I was there.
No, man, no.
It was a cold winter, and while
no.
While I was there, I ran into a Navajo was living up there amongst the Athabascan people.
You find a Navajo everywhere, huh?
Yeah, they're everywhere. They told me that there was a Pawnee that was living there, and Pawnees are nomadic. They like to travel, like to go all over the place. That's how I am. So the quarantine is a bit challenging for me, to be sitting in one place. I get in my car and drive around a little bit, but to be up there, they said, hey, do you know this guy? He's a Pawnee. He lived up here, for a couple of years. And I knew the name. I knew the family name. And I was like, they're like, tell him we miss him, and they had made friends with this Pawnee who came and lived in a village up there. And so it was amazing, to see how our Native people live in all these different communities and how we're surviving and what we do, to make our communities thrive, and continue on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about, I was reading, your bio and your website and those things. And I see you do some work with the youth, and you just talked about, the kids sitting down with you. What does your work like that look like? What are you doing today?
Yeah. Like it's kind of branched out now to working with youth, elders, and community adults, young adults, families. So it's not, just one area, it's kind of crossing, some different age groups and even sectors in the community that are native, non-native, diverse communities. And our people are becoming diversified, culturally. We have a lot of our kids are mixed with other, ethnic backgrounds. And so, I try to stay busy as much as I can, in the communities. And I just left a health center in Milwaukee. So I was working up there when Shannon came through and had her event with AIAA, that was a huge event for repatriation and her work, helping our tribes recover lost items, sacred items, repatriating, our ancestors and things like that. And so, the work kind of started out because I had, before all of this, I was DJing, and I was kind of performing, DJing, doing things like that. And then I got into some movies. One of the goals I had was to try to get in a movie and try to do some things like that. And so I pursued that. And then I moved to LA, and I did about, I've done over like 25 films and TV shows. And so that kind of opened the door to come speak. That was really what happened. Is I did these movies, and somebody in Oklahoma City, I came home to visit from LA, and they're like, hey, you were in a movie. You were in Last of the Mohicans. So that's one of that was my first film. So kind of my claim to fame in a film. And I was like, I was in there, Wes Studi and Russell Means. And, you mentioned AIM earlier, like some of these people that have been out there, having a voice for our Native people. And so I did that film. I auditioned like everybody else, and I was a part of a group of about 10 guys that cast from the beginning to the end of the movie. And so that was my first film. Went to North Carolina, and when I came back to Oklahoma after the film had was released, I came back and they're like, hey, come talk about how you got in this movie and how you were DJing, because I wasn't really a speaker. I thought, they're like, hey, these kids, they want to hear hear your message. And so I came back and I went to a school, and I actually think it was Capitol Hill High School. I think that might have been one of the first schools I went to talk for a Native program. And so I went over there, and I didn't really even know what my message was going to be. I just thought, well, I'll talk about the movie. We all got cast in Last of the Mohicans. They put us on a bus. They didn't even fly us there. They put us on a Greyhound, and we took a 3-day Greyhound to North Carolina. And, we got there and we did a film, and I worked on that for almost 4 months. So it was a great opportunity, to be in a feature film. And that's kind of what I talked about, how I got in that first film, and the work, and, the work ethic that the film industry has. Like, we had to be picked up at every morning, like 4:15, 4:30 in the morning, and you had to be up and ready to go. Like, I seen them people that missed the bus, missed the van. I seen them go pick them up and take them to the bus station to go home. So I was like, I'm in a movie. I'm not going to I'm not sleeping in. I'm going to be up. I'm going to make that van ride to the set. And so it was a great learning experience. So I kind of talked about that. And then they wanted that message of drugs and alcohol, prevention. And, so the kids were asking me about drugs and alcohol. And when they're asking me how what life was like when I was DJing in clubs and all around Oklahoma City and Dallas and places like that. And I just told them I never wanted to drink. I never, had an interest in it. I grew up around it. It was around in my family and the people that we knew. It affected a lot of people's lives, and I seen how it, really, really broke people's families down. And so I just made a choice when I was young, from what I seen in my own family, that I didn't want to go down that road. So that's kind of what started everything to the work that I do now. Like I said, just leaving a center in Milwaukee, and we work with everyone. My culture program worked with the whole community, even the non-native community in that city, and it was a great experience.
One of the interesting things I was reading on your bio, and you actually mentioned it, and I know a lot of Native people respect, and I don't know a lot of Native people use medicine like tobacco in a good way, but you actually mentioned the respect for it, and I haven't heard too many natives talk about that, because sometimes we have our casual smoke and we smoke cigarettes and those things, but I saw in your bio you said respect for tobacco. You were very specific about it. Do you talk about that? Do you have a little thing that you teach the kids about that, or what do you say about it?
Yeah, that's now during our tribes reaching out and offering all kinds of trainings and workshops, what became really big in the last few years was traditional knowledge, traditional based practices, cultural practices, and how important are they to our youth, our younger generations, and how do we carry those on? And so one was, you've probably seen tobacco is sacred, and like there's been a big spike in vaping. And the effects that vaping has on our young people, on our communities, even the young adults, but just smoking in general. There's some people, they might have been smoking for 50 years and they're still going, and then there's some people who can't smoke very long and they have a lot of health problems. So one of the first teachings that I was told, in a lot of our ceremonies, when we use raweskadu, the tobacco, the sacred Indian tobacco, we call it raweskadu. In Pawnee and in Seminole or Creek, they call it hiji. So that hiji, that Indian tobacco, was one of our first medicines. When they talk about it, they say that was one of the first medicines the Creator gave us, and that was our direct line to communicate with the higher power. When we use that tobacco, we grew it, we harvested it, then we broke it down, and we might have rolled a smoke with it, in a tobacco, in a pipe, or in a corn husk, how we use it in ceremonies now. And then we used it that way to communicate. It wasn't about smoking it. It was more just like blowing that smoke, blowing that smoke up to the creator as an offering, or taking it out and putting it by a tree, putting it somewhere, a sacred place. You offer that tobacco to communicate with the higher power. And it's an old teaching. They said that was the very first medicine, and it used to grow everywhere. They said it just used to grow all over the lands. And then as people lost that respect, forgot about it, they started forgetting about it and not respecting it. It started going away. Eventually it went away. It probably only grew in those places where they had that respect for it and took care of it. And then people that actually planted and harvested it, they understand that, they understand that. And so now, that's part of the programming and grants, like agriculture, let's grow traditional medicine, sage and sweetgrass and tobacco, or let's grow squash and beans and corn. Let's grow these traditional foods that we used to live on, that we still do live on. They were the staples. But now, it's part of a program, it's part of a grant, and some people just do it because they want to. So that tobacco, I always try to share that message. There was a grandma that I met one time when I was working in South Dakota, and she was like, this tobacco right here. She started talking about it. She's like, this is powerful right here. You use this, you'll see a miracle. She was saying, you want to talk to God, you put this tobacco out. God he'll look down, he'll listen to you. She was saying it just like it was just, get on the phone and call somebody. She said, this is how you talk to God right here. You put this down, he's going to recognize you. And so I just thought, that was really just a great, just short and sweet, to the point of that teaching and those beliefs. And so I always try to kind of carry those type of teachings on. And then on my mom's side, my great great grandma who came from Florida, when they moved our Seminole people across the southeast, across to Oklahoma, and they called it the Long Walk, and that same as the Trail of Tears. She lived to be about 115.
Damn.
She got to Oklahoma, she lived that long. And then her daughter, my great grandma, she lived to be 100. They said about 105. And then my grandma, who just passed away about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, she lived to be 97. And so, they had really long lives. But my great grandma, she chewed tobacco. And so everyone was like, dang, but a lot of those old grandmas, they chewed tobacco. And they would have a little can there on the floor, and we always took them tobacco. They're like, take them tobacco. So I always take her tobacco, and then she chewed it till she was in her late 90s, and they said, hey, she can't chew it anymore, and we're not giving it to her. And when I stopped bringing it, the first time I didn't bring it, they said that she was losing her memory and stuff. And when I walked in, she looked at me and she smiled, then we started talking, and she was just staring at me. And I was like, I don't have it. They told me don't bring it, And then she spoke Seminole, and she just kind of shook her head, and I was like, man. So the next time I went, I took her tobacco, and I slid it to her, and she hit it on her. And then I don't know what she did with it, but she was really happy, and she talked to me, and her memory was fine, so. That's just a story that my other grandma always shared. She was like, yeah, we chew tobacco. It keeps us young. And my mom's about to turn 78 this year.
Wow. That's an awesome story. That is awesome. Yeah, my great grandmother had snuff. Do you remember snuff? So we'd always have to buy her. That was what she wanted. That's what I brought her is those little cans of snuff. That was her thing. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma liked the beech nut and the red man and the beech nut.
Mine would leave hers out. So this was back in the 60s and 70s, and here in California, where she's native, and she would leave the cigarette out. It would just sit there, like almost all day. She'd sit it out there in the morning, and then she'd go off and smoke it later out in the backyard, and you think about all those things that, even as some of the traditions have been worn off, they still did those things. It was like an offering all day. That thing sat up there on the counter, And it was like, I mean, who does it? People smoke cigarettes, they pull it out of a pack, but no, she would pull it out, she'd put it up there in her morning, deal. And then later on in the day, she'd go out in the yard and smoke the cigarette, but it was, she was honoring the tobacco, that's how we see it throughout our culture, the honoring of the tobacco. And what I liked about what your website was saying, to me, it spoke to me anyway, was it resonated with, a lot of these things that we do as Native people, we think of them as ceremonial. Some people think of them as, oh yeah, hocus pocus, whatever, this and that and the other. But if you have respect for that tobacco, which is so dangerous nowadays, we realize how dangerous it is. The mouth cancers that people get, the lung cancers that people get, the addiction that it gives to people. And then now all the vaping and stuff that's going on because of the nicotine and the tobacco itself, we've abused these things. And instead of honoring them and doing the right things with them in a good way, like we were taught, like we were supposed to be the caretakers of that medicine, we've abused it. And because of that, we're suffering the consequences, just like in everything else, like in the water and the air and all the other things that we were supposed to hold ceremony for and respect and hold in reverence. And now we've abused those things, and we're paying the price for it today. So that message of how important tobacco is to our youth, and I think is important. I think that letting them know that having respect for that, having a casual smoke or even, being a smoker or whatever, but understanding what you're doing and understanding the importance of what that really is, I think is going to go a long way. And to changing things, like you said, the seventh generation, there has to be a realization of what those things are there for and what we've done to them, and what they brought to us because of the consequences of what we've created,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. That's good words. Like everybody has their stories of what they were taught and what they grew up seeing. Like some of our grandparents, uncles, aunts. And as each generation goes on, we're trying to carry it on what we know and pass that down. And try to retain it, that our kids and our grandkids at some point are doing the same thing. I don't have any grandkids yet, but so
me neither. I don't think any of us do, right, Shannon? We're all late bloomers here.
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
I mean, shoot, my grandmother was a grandmother for like, damn, by the time she was my age, she was a grandmother for like 25 years.
Oh man, you didn't get a break, bitch.
They were having them young. I mean, my mom was 15 when I was born, so they were having them young back then.
Yeah. This things change. My daughter just graduated last week, so some of the other work that I'm helping some people in the communities is they're trying to do, honoring our graduates, this year, high school. College, and figure out how do we do that. And I've seen some great ideas, on social media. My daughter was supposed to graduate last weekend from Cameron University in Oklahoma, and it was kind of just kind of showed up, and we just
so college, not high school, right? College.
Yeah, college. And so we try to do what we could, but I said, well, in the future when everything opens, we'll have a big cookout, we'll have a big celebration, it'll be okay. We're proud of you, for your accomplishment. And my nephew too, he was supposed to graduate from high school about a week and a half ago too. So, we're just trying to stay positive and encourage them. I don't know what it's like, what they're going through. All we can do is encourage them, and show support.
I got lucky. My son's graduating this year also. But he's he's an intellectual, kind of an introvert. He doesn't want to do the prom or he's not too concerned about the graduation and all that kind of stuff, so he's it hasn't affected him. But the school brought yard signs for all the seniors, and put them up in the front yard. And so we woke up one morning and they had all these, we're proud of you, congratulations, and then they had the families put these boards together with their graduate on it and pictures of their family and, congratulations. And we went and we hung those up at the up in front of the school on the gate. So I did a video, going to the school and hanging up his deal on the and we videotaped it and say congratulations to all the kids, because it's got to be hard. I mean, some of these, I mean, you went to school all these years, and here you're going to get your graduation, your diploma, and you don't get to walk, and you don't get to put the cap and gown on and do all that stuff, and be honored for the hard work that you put in as a young kid. It's got to be hard for them.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of coping going on, and I think as long as you kind of ask them how they're doing, and try to get them to open up and talk. I talked to my nephew this week, and he kind of told me that he's kind of bummed. He did all that work, and he was getting ready for track season too. He's great,
that too,
having a great season in track, and that all got shut down. So, I guess, with our support and then our prayers, putting those prayers up for them and what they're going through, I know when I was a senior, I was ready. I'm going to celebrate, I finished this, and I was excited, so I think, and I know California's got about a few weeks of school left, don't they? Or they?
Yeah, they got a few weeks left, but they're done for the year. They're not going to bring them back. I don't think they're going to bring them back. I don't know when. They haven't made a decision yet when they're going to bring them back. But
yeah. And then my sister sent a message out, and she said that the school sent her an email or an update and said they were going to have a graduation in August. And I was like, what do they know? We don't know.
No kidding, huh?
But it really is. It's a new ceremony. It's a new rite of passage. And where, like, for me, I was the first family member to graduate high school. So it was a big deal. And I can just imagine today, I mean, it really is a new ceremony for us. It is a new rite of passage. That's really important for us today. And I know, Brian, you work with a lot of youth at various levels and age groups, and you have a very strong family. And so do you see? How do you think our youth are doing out there? How do you think, on a broader scale in Indian country, how do you think our youth are doing?
Well, I'm working with a lot of different tribes right now. We're all kind of transitioning to the virtual distance learning and virtual models. And so some of them were pretty progressive and advanced, like already. They were already using it. So they kind of were transitioning pretty quickly. Some of the other tribes that weren't using it at all, it's like, it's foreign. It's like something so brand new. They're just like, I don't even know how this works. And so across the board, we got to reach out to our community, our young people, during any kind of crisis, but especially right now with this pandemic. It's called a crisis, a disaster, natural. It's called a lot of different things right now. But how do we reach out and how do we do that? And social media is like the only platform that we have, across the board. So that, I think that's one way that people are looking at and figuring that out. Just like you doing a show like this, it's a great idea. It's like you're probably thinking like, man, we could have been doing this 2 years ago with the work that we're doing, and that's how we're trying to address it right now. And I'm hearing some tribes are doing pretty well. They're trying to stay connected and stay updated with their communities and families. And then some tribes, it's just people just scattered, and they're just kind of trying to survive. And we don't want to just survive, we want to thrive and figure out what we have to do as Native people and as human beings even, so it's a lot to think of. And I think with a lot of people networking, like realizing that it's going to take all of us together to get through it. And we can't be in these little silos and factions and things.
Yeah.
That's always been around, that we're going to have to break those down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings you to, the beauty of the internet is that, Shannon and I have been working, in different areas of Indian country for our young adult lives and our adult lives. And we went to the same church together, Native American church here in Garden Grove. And we've done a lot of work in the community. You name it, from helping elders' backyards out to, talking in schools to talking circles to, youth groups and all these other things that we've done. And then Shannon, of course, branched off and went to real school and got her learned it on and went to law school and all that good stuff. But for years, we've always talked about, what our elder taught us was, hey, you guys need to disseminate information. That was his big thing was it's about dissemination of information. And he had a small church, and we had a group of people that showed up every week, and the message went through to them, and they changed people's lives that way. But with a platform like this, I look in our chat room, and we've got people from Colorado, people from Houston, people from Austin. We've got people from DC, people, from all around the country, from Indian country, who are hearing the messages that we're going to be passing. And it gives us a platform that Indian people can actually come together. And I know we're not the only one, that's for sure. And there are many of them out there that are starting to do it. There's some comedy groups that I really like watching. There's a couple of guys that do some work. They get up there and they clown, and it's a really fun show. And so there's a lot of different things in Indian country that are going on the internet that are really cool, And I think that this platform, that the internet is really helping us out to kind of bring everybody together, because like you said, when you said scattered, it's like Indian country has been scattered for years and years and years,
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you said, I think these platforms are bringing people together, and a lot of different people are doing it. I saw one of the comedy shows a couple of Saturdays ago. I got on, and I just wanted to get on and support, and see what they were doing, and got on. They were doing a Zoom comedy hour. It was just 1 hour. And so it kind of gave me some ideas of maybe some things I could do. And then like watching you guys show. And I did last weekend, I did a hand drum singing contest.
Oh, cool.
And I promoted it for a few days, but it didn't get a lot of response because there's just so much going on. And so I extended it to the weekend, and I had a few people get on and get in the contest, and we ended up having a couple of winners, and it was only women. Like I don't know where the guys were; they weren't representing. They were probably on the quarantine powwow, but they missed out. So I had two winners, and these two women, one was a group, three women, and the other one was one woman from Oklahoma, and they just did a great job, and everyone loved hearing their songs, and so they won that contest. And then the next one, I don't know how we can give something away tonight, but the next one is this. I got this. I'm trying to be prepared.
What is it?
It's the Mamba Mentality right here.
Oh,
with Kobe right here. Okay, there we go.
Whoa,
man! I mean, this one hurt, because
that hurt so bad. I still hurt.
Yeah, it hit California and the world pretty hard, And what was crazy is that I bought the book about a week and a half earlier because I was looking into going to the Mamba Academy, the sports academy.
Uh-huh.
I was going to go over there and kind of check out some of their trainings because I work with some basketball players and do training and trying to help them go to that next level. And so I was going to go over there and do a couple of their trainings, and then I bought the books. Like, hey, maybe I can get Kobe to sign it. And then, in that next week and a half, all that happened. But just through that mindset, of how he looked at life, and like how a lot of our people that are out there trying to be successful and making these accomplishments, that they have that mindset and that mentality of like, they're going to find a way to make it happen and get through all these challenges and learn and grow from those struggles, like we're doing right now. So I wanted to do a basketball challenge. So that's going to be the next thing that I do is a basketball challenge for the younger kids and then probably the teenagers.
Yeah.
I'm going to give these books away to the boy and girl in those different categories. So I'm going to start posting that really soon. I'll keep you guys updated on that.
We'll post it on our social media.
Yeah, we'll help you out, and we'll shill your channel, whatever you do, man. Let us know. We'll put it up there and link people to it and do whatever we can to help out. Brings me to something else. My nephews play basketball. One plays he's a freshman at Oregon State plays for the Beavers, and the other one, and they were both here at Villa Park High School. They played at Villa Park in California. And the other one went to Boston, and it was his senior year, and they went to the finals, and they got it all canceled and all that. It was a mess. For all their lives, they've worked hard and struggled to get to this hard, and they missed out on that now. But sports is a heck of an outlet for our youth, and it leads into something else that I wanted to talk to you about, which is interesting about your bio, which is nutrition. My sexy is completely gone now from COVID-19. Thank you, COVID-19. I've been back and forth from my room, my computer to my refrigerator, back to my room, back to my refrigerator, back to my room. And it's just like, it's been horrible, man. But I've always taken care of myself. I was a Marine, so I worked out all the time. I've taken care of my body. I'm 53. So it's whenever I miss a week or two of the gym, man, it's all over. It starts going downhill real fast, you know? And so
take long the harder you get.
it gets harder. It gets harder. But now I want to talk about, I want to get your angle on it, because nutrition to me, we talk about a lot of different things. So that's what the hoop is in this for this show is, we were taught by our elder that everything's in the hoop, it's all in there, everything, everything's sacred, everything's connected, everything's related, and it's all in the hoop. You just have to go in and get the answers for yourself and get the solutions to everything is in the hoop, and health and nutrition is one of those things. And I know all right, you guys out there, all you new people out there, I know a lot of you pushing some weight, and it's important that you start to take care of yourselves, because there are some tribes where we're seeing 90% diabetes rates, adult onset diabetes showing up in 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and it's an epidemic in Indian country. And I know that there's a lot of studies and things that say, that genetically that the foods today have affected Indian people more. And maybe that's why we see some of the diabetes rates that we have. But that's a concern. And I see that, one of the things that you talk about a lot is health, and it looks like you're a healthy guy. So, what's your take on that? And how do you talk to the youth in the Indian country about health and nutrition?
Yeah. We have to educate ourselves. We have to really look at what we're eating, where we eat, how we eat, and get a grip on it. Some of us, we grew up probably not on the healthiest food, but we're really active. We weren't in the house all the time. We had to go outside. We had to go out and play till 8 o'clock, do your homework, go outside, get out of here, and then go ride your bikes or play basketball. We couldn't just sit in the house all the time. You had to start doing chores if you sat around too much. So, we got out and we were active, but we ate pretty good, pretty decent, but we also ate like, Twinkies and ding dongs and all kinds of sweets, and then we had to go to IHS, and back then, it probably wasn't the best healthcare you could get. It's come a long ways, and so we had to struggle through that and get through that until we could get our own, healthcare as adults. And so learning just about eating health, I had to stop drinking pop when I was 19. I drank so much pop, like Dr. Pepper and root beer. Like that's what I like. So that's what I drank. I probably 2 or 3 a day, who knows what size, and I got sick when I was 19, and I had to go to the emergency room. And I don't know what was wrong. I thought felt like somebody stabbing me in the gut. And I went in and I had a bladder infection, and it was probably one of those painful things. I never go to the hospital hardly. I never go to the doctor ER. Like that was one of the times I went. I had to go with my dad because my mom was working. My dad didn't want to take us to the hospital. We were just like a lot of people, just struggling. We had 5 kids in my family, and we didn't have a lot of money. You had to really be hurt, to go to the doctor. They'd have a broken bone or something. Yeah. And so I went, and the doctor's like, they did a little blood test, and he's like, well, what kind of pop do you drink? What kind of soda do you drink? And I was like, Dr. Pepper and root beer. He's like, you're done drinking it. He's like, you keep drinking it, you're going to come in here again and again with the same thing. He goes, then it could be worse. And he said, you can move to lighter pop, like 7-Up or Sprite. And I was like, I didn't really drink that. And he's like, or you just stop, drink juice, drink water. And so that's when I had to start drinking, juice and water. I'd have a sip every once in a while, but I thought, man, if that's going to affect my body like that, I gotta be healthier. And so I just started eating healthy. I always stayed active. I played sports in high school, played basketball. Our team went to state. And so I was always athletic and healthy, but you go through phases like now, it's even now with this quarantine, I'm good for 2 weeks. I'll be working out. The next week and a half, I won't do I can't even get out to get a run in. Yeah. So it's balancing it all out, but eating healthy at the same time, and working with the programs. Our traditional foods are really big, and the effects of eating deer meat and buffalo and these other foods that we lived on, at one time, and how they affect your body, and how we're changing the numbers on the diabetes, because if we don't change it, that diabetes is going to be around. That's another assault on our native people is commodities and these foods that were brought around our people that we start eating out of habit, and then it had all these, adverse effects on us. So, it's just changing your mindset, mentality, and getting educated. And I worked with the elders in some communities, and they changed their eating habits, and they changed their numbers. Their numbers were coming back down, better balance. And, it's just getting in that habit, and then learning, that it's important to eat healthier. So that nutrition part is I'm really big on that. And a lot of water, tea, we have juice, Minute Maid and all that stuff every once in a while, but we're not living on that. And like you said, those numbers are getting out of control. And so letting our younger kids know that it's important. You can't eat like that. You cannot eat like that. It'll affect your health and your growth and all of those things. So I think, and then the programs being open to share those messages, and their support there.
Yeah. And one of the, I'm sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, thanks. Remember a little Indian 101, because I don't want us focused too much on, Indians or diabetic or somehow defective. The truth is that it was U.S. policy that removed us from our traditional food sources and replaced it with, the wonderful commodity cheese and the powdered milk and eggs and flour. And these were not part of our diet. And then that's all we had. So remember that I think anyone in those circumstances would have diabetes and adult onset diabetes. So the use of the word pop. Oh, that's funny.
Call him a northern boy because he said pop.
I know.
Soda.
But that was bringing me into something that something else in that area. And Shannon's absolutely right. That's what I was kind of alluding to, was the removal of original food sources, because I don't think fry bread really was,
sure is good though.
Hell yeah. Gotta have me a taco, but
it depends who's fry bread,
and how it was made. I don't know how.
Navajo fry bread. I like northern. I like how northerners make their fry bread.
Yeah, you just like northern boys. I remember that. Shannon used to always try and snag around the northern drums. She would always wander off from the southern drum and go hang out with the northern boys.
Hi. The southern boys have a better lower voice, nice sexy voice, not that high pitch. I'm not even gonna pretend I can sing that high.
But what I was alluding to is Shannon is absolutely correct. That culturally, we were removed from our traditional foods, and our bodies couldn't. I read a study sometime about how the processed carbohydrate really affected the native system, and a lot of obesity rates went skyrocketed because of that. And of course, like you said, it was the removal of the original foods and the addition to the processed foods. But today, fortunately for us, we can choose. We can choose what we put in our bodies. But on the other hand, I've also seen where, hey, a 50-cent cheeseburger on sale, feeds a family too. And poverty and sometimes cheap food sources put those things into our culture, and we can't get away from it, because sometimes that's how they have to feed their families is on these cheaper foods. I grew up, my grandmother my grandmother took care of me. My mom was too young. My dad was in prison, but I mean, I was, it was homemade tortillas. It was rice. It was beans. It was some kind of a steamed meat that she would make. We call it nuggets and stuff. And she would, that's what she made. And I lived off of that. I heard her pounding the flour out every morning, making tortillas and stuff, and she made tamales and all those things. And that's how we lived, and it was good food, and it was something that was, she got it from the store and she made it. Nowadays, a lot of us are feeding our families out of the driver's side window of our car, in a bag. And that's something that we need to really look at when we're looking at these diabetes rates, especially in kids, because when I hear about the adult onset rates of diabetes in children 8, 9, 10 years old, see, that was supposed to be stuff that hit obese people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and now we're seeing children with that. Like when I went to school, there was 1 overweight, 2 overweight kids that got made fun of, and now when I go to take my kids to school, when they went to elementary school, there was 1 or 2 skinny kids, and all the other kids were overweight. So times have changed, and it's getting worse. So not to get back into that, but another thing that you touched on when you were talking about your gallbladder incident, I just had an incident where I've got 8 herniated discs in my back, and I take a lot of ibuprofen and things like that, and I stay away from the opioids because I read that in your bio also that you do work with, opioids and addiction, and that's a huge problem too. But I was taking the ibuprofen, and I ended up in the hospital because it burned my intestines, and I had to have surgery. So my small intestine, they were going to remove a piece of it. Luckily, they were able to keep me in the hospital for 4 or 5 days. They did a surgery and said, "No, we're gonna nurse you back to health, but you got to get off that. You can't take that stuff no more." And so, just like you getting off the pop, I had to get off of the ibuprofen. So these things that we're putting in our bodies, once again, not taking care of the sacred, and physically. So for us as people, taking care of our bodies and the things that we put in our bodies are important.
Yeah, and I think the foods and the medicines that we're being introduced to our people, like we need to make sure we're using the right medicines, or we might need to look into holistic foods and medicines and traditional medicines to help us get through some of these sicknesses and diseases that are out there. That we've had these traditional medicines for a long time, and if we're going to have sometimes people need the medications, pharmaceuticals, prescriptions and things like that. But you got to know what you're taking, be aware of, and be knowledgeable, be educated. We see it in a lot of our families and communities. Some of our families get on prescriptions for whatever. They could be taking like 10 pills, and we need to be aware of what's going on, what's happening with their health, and just things like that, staying educated on, what we're putting into our body all across the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what do we?
I just got a boomer in the chat room. Somebody just called me a boomer in the chat room.
Okay, bro.
Yeah, we're going to start talking about all our medications and all of that.
Okay, boomer. No more soda pops. No more ibuprofens. It's like a bunch of old.
I just want to know what kind of medication you guys need. So why are you wearing hats in our show here? What's up with that? Why?
I just have this guy he was selling hats, and he said he was trying to get food. I was like, all right, man, I got you. So I was like, I'll buy one. He's saying he needed food, so I was like, I'll support this guy. And plus, I've been in Cali, so I had to get my LA hat.
Representing.
There you go.
So I wore one today because I haven't had a haircut in like 2 months, and my fade's gone, and my gray is hit.
I was trimming up before this. Had the clippers on.
I'm like, I took a shower though. I even put some cologne on. Usually, I mean, that's like a every 3-day event now with the pandemic going on. It's like, well, do I take a shower today or no? I'll wait a few days. Oh wait, it's Friday. Maybe it's a special occasion. I'm gonna watch a movie tonight, so I'll take a shower. Or the show's on.
Is it Netflix or Hulu or what are you watching?
I do. I got this really cool stream. It's called D Streams, and I'm just gonna shill it because it's good stuff. I only pay like a few bucks a month. It's like $22 a month. I get everything. It's called D Streams, man. It's freaking badass. So you can find everything out there, and it's just a streaming service, and you pay for it monthly, and
all right, this is Indian talk. I don't know what
everything. Hey, come on, Indians watch TV too. What are you talking about?
I was trying to transit. Yeah, we need to watch more native filmmakers and YouTube
Well,
shows.
you get to see them on there because there's more native content on the D streams.
Oh, is there?
Well, you brought up Blood Quantum. I saw it I saw it a couple
That's
months ago.
that zombie flick.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. There's just entrails all over the place. It's on Shudder. You can see it free on Shudder, which is like a horror streaming.
They put it online?
Yeah, so you can see it free on
Awesome.
Shudder, and you can get a free 7-day trial to Shudder and watch it. So that's what I did this week.
What'd you think about it?
I had to watch it over 2 days because I couldn't take it all in one sitting. I'm not a big horror movie person, but it was it was good acting, and some of our Indian shows, they're usually like B quality or C quality. This was awesome. There's some really great acting and storytelling in it. So I was really excited about it, but it was a little
smoke signals.
Oh, smoke.
Yeah, no, I saw it at the film festival in Pachanga in February.
Yeah.
And they were going to release it, I think, the end of March and in the theaters, and then all this happened. So
Yeah.
I was like, this movie's going to do great. That's a great production. Those guys did an amazing job on that show. And that, I don't know if they did a talk after a Q&A, and the guy that wrote it, did you see that story about what he wrote it from?
No.
It was something that happened in an Indian community in Canada where this company had, I guess, polluted the water or something. And then all these people started getting sick. They started getting some kind of sickness, and it spread, but he turned it into a zombie. But it was actually, the real story is were getting sick from some company, and they were kind of stuck on an island. And so I thought that was just an amazing story like that, and create that film. That was impressive.
Man, I'd love to get some of those people on the show.
Yeah, you need to get them on, do an interview. I'm friends with a couple of the guys that were in the film.
Oh yeah. Hey, did you ever run with my cousin Michael in at the film? I mean, he did a bunch of movies. I'm not even sure if he might have been on that movie with you that you just talked about.
I think he might have went over there. I think they brought a lot of Okies. They brought a lot of Okies and natives from the plains over there.
Well, he was out here in California. He just went back to Oklahoma, back to Anadarko, like probably 2-3 years ago. He was out here in LA, and him and Saginaw were real good friends, and they hung out all the time. You probably met Saggy too out here, of course.
Yeah, I know Sag.
Yeah, everybody knows Saggy.
The legend.
He's a legend. Yeah, he is. He's cool, man. He's a ladies' man too.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes.
He's a ladies' man.
Yeah, I used to tease him when I lived out in LA in the 90s because I was going to a lot of powwows, and I would go sing, and then I'd talk to him because he's a Sac and Fox, right?
Sac and Fox, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'd be like, Saginaw. I'd be talking to him. He'd always have like some young, like hot woman with him, and
blonde too.
Blonde, yeah. Another one with the blonde.
And he had that little medicine bag he used to carry on his waist. It's a little leather bag. Like, Saginaw, what do you got in there? He's like, oh, you're not ready for this.
Yeah, I mean, him and my cousin Michael were really tight. They ran together, and I'll tell you what, woman chasers, that's for sure. That's for sure.
And you can always see the long hairs coming. You know exactly what they're up to.
Shannon.
So Brian, we're not gonna. I don't want to let you leave here. I don't want to close this show before I hear you sing a song. I really need that.
Oh yeah. Let's get some music going.
If that's okay. If that's okay.
Yeah, I always love to share our songs, and they've been around for a long time, and they help us during these times when we're going through things in our life. It can lift us up, make us feel good, make us smile. Make somebody feel good, and around that arena or in that ceremony or whenever we use these songs. And so I got a couple I'll share with you. I want to share one it's kind of a little more upbeat. It's a little more upbeat, and it comes from our let's see. Check, can you hear me? Testing 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. So it comes from one of our old ceremonies, and they carried on a long time. And you know, these songs, they play a big important part of our community. When our community comes together, whether it's a ceremony, a powwow, roundhouse, you know, round dance, whatever it is, you know, our yearly celebrations, our winter celebrations. And these right here come from our hand game. I know Wichitas are familiar with that, or Oklahoma tribes, or Plains tribes, and different parts of the country. They have different types of games that they play that brought their people together, social, in that social world. So I'll share one of these songs, and then okay, you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, so if you guys want to sit there at home, clap your hands, or you know, just enjoy it. That's what these games are for, from the hand game, for our people to come together and enjoy that time together, and enjoy that visit. You know, it's a ceremony, and it's a time for our people to celebrate, you know, celebrate amongst each other. And so I want to share this one. No one anyway can't get. I know one anyway can't get. Chicks are better, oh, do the hey, oh, hey. Chicks are better, oh, do the hey, oh, hey. Oh, hey, oh, hey. Oh, hey, oh, hey. I know one anyway can't get. I know one anyway can't get. Chicks are better, oh, do the hey, oh, hey. Chicks are better, oh, do the hey, oh, hey. Oh, hey, oh, hey. Oh, hey, oh, hey. That's one of our hand game songs that we have. I'll share another one real quick. I don't know when I'm going to be cut off. Here's a song that came. Actually, I'm going to use the drum. This is a song that came when I know you guys talk about a lot of different important issues in our communities. You know, across the board of everything that we kind of go through and things that our community experience. And we were a part of the protecting the water at Standing Rock, and I had worked with Standing Rock for probably like 13 years before that. So I was really connected to the community, and when they told me what they were doing and they needed some help, I said, yeah, like what's happening? What's the plan? And they just told me, and they said, we're going to set up a camp. We're going to Mini Wachoni. You know, Mini Wachoni is what they say when you come into Sweat Lodge, you know, that water of life, that sacred water. You know, we have respect for it. Without that water, you know, we can't even live. You know, that's what most of our body is made up of anyway, this sacred water. And so we were there, and we supported that, and we helped get the word out. And while we were there, seeing all of the treatment and atrocities that our people and allies were going through during that stand to protect the Mini Wachoni, you know, it was you know, pretty disturbing to sit back and watch, you know, what was happening, and to know that it had been going on there for a long time. You know, it just finally got exposed. It's like a lot of these communities that we're seeing, they're getting exposed for the way that they are, and their truth of who they are. So while we were there, we got a song, and it came to us at our camp. We were camped right by the Cannonball River, you know, Chetishakowi. So it was the main camp where everybody was camped at one time. There was probably about 14,000 people in that camp. It was really amazing to see. So we got a song while we were there, me and my brother, and we got a melody, and then we kind of created the song. My brother came up with the words, and we put our words of our Dakota relatives and our Pawnee people, because in the movies and stuff, Dances with Wolves, you know, they say they made it that the Pawnees and the Sioux were these bitter enemies, and we had this long history. But you know, there's a lot of sides to the stories. You know, there's a lot of history. You know, we can tell our own stories, and you know, we were pushed, you know, to those places, and now we're rebuilding those bridges, and you know, we're all connected. We're all related, like they say. You know, they say Amitake Oyasin or Escuridacito. We're all connected, and that's where this song came from. We have a lot of friends, relatives. My daughter, she's Pawnee, Seminole, Lakota, Dakota, and Irish. My youngest. So she got a little bit of everything in there. So you got to be open-minded there. So this is a song that that came while we were there at the Oceti-Shinkowi, this council camp of the 7 council fires. And so I want to share that with you guys. And then I'll translate the words. Hey yo, hey da yo, hey yo, hey da yo, hey yo, hey da, hey yo, oh hey do, hey hey hey, hey yo, hey da yo, hey yo, hey da yo, hey yo, hey da, hey yo, oh hey do, hey hey yo. No woman with Johnny. Da da chicks da hoo hey da yo hey yo hey da yo hey yo hey da yo hey yo hey da hey yo oh hey do hey hey yo hey da yo hey yo hey da yo hey yo hey da hey yo oh hey do hey 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 yo hey da yo hey yo hey da yo. Hey yo, hey da, hey yo, oh hey do, hey hey yo. Don't woman with John da da chicks da ho hey da yo, hey yo, hey da yo, hey yo, hey da yo, hey yo, hey da, hey yo, oh hey do, hey 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 yo.
Oh.
Oh.
Cute.
Yeah, I feel like powwow time now. So
Yeah.
powwow time. I know we're all ready for that, and you know, it's good to hear our songs, and I love to share our songs. And that says Noah Mini Wachoni. It's saying it's greeting the water of life. I'm greeting the water of life here. I'm saying hello to you, greeting, happy to see you. And it says Tata Chicks Tahu, and it says, I love you. I have love for this water. You know, if you like being outside, you like being in the rain, going to the river, the lake, the ocean, you know what I'm talking about, going swimming, all those things. And so that's the song that we got from Ocheti Shakowi, you know, while we were at Standing Rock. And, you know, supporting each other as Native people, supporting our different communities, and, you know, what we're all going through right now. We're all on the same playing field. You know, and we're finding a way to survive. This isn't the first assault on our Native American people and on the human race. You know, we're all going to have to get through it with each other, and having an open mind and being able to figure out a lot of things, a lot of ways to get through it. And so, you know, I'm glad that you guys are doing this. It's a great program and some great content and information to share. You know, you guys keep doing it. I definitely put the word out and share, you know, what you're doing here. I think it's really important.
Right on, Brian. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you and the sacrifices that you make, and, you know, going out there and praying for the water and singing for the water and fighting for the water. You know, it's more than it. You know, the ceremonies and the songs and those things were to be respectful to the water. And had we continued those things and were able to influence maybe this nation's attitude towards the water, we wouldn't have the pollution and the things going on today if they would have had the kind of respect that you just showed that Native people have for things just like as simple as the water. You know, people in the general population of this country don't think of, you know, they think water, you turn the faucet on, you drink it, you wash yourself with it, you know, you flush the toilet, whatever. But as Native people, you know, we have ceremony, we have song, and when the water is under attack, we go and we fight for that, you know. And you guys sacrificed and went out there to fight for the water, and sang the songs and did the ceremonies and remembered in a good way, you know, how we as Native people respect that and how we're supposed to take care of that. So I appreciate you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate that by both of you. And you know, it's a good message. And just like you said, that water, you know, when we drink this, you know, like I was told, you know, we talk to this water, we talk to that medicine, whatever we're using, you know, when we put it in our body to help us, you know, ask it to help us, you know, we can talk to this, like that water spirit. And what I heard too from some of the elders, you know, while I was there, when everyone had to leave and everything was getting shut down, is that, you know, all those prayers and good thoughts and ceremonies that went to protect the water and pray for the water, that this one elder said, you know, that water's going to be all right. That water's going to heal. It's going to heal itself. And so I was like, that makes sense, like, because we all had to go back on our own journey, in our work that we do, and know that our prayers are going to get answered for that water, and that water would be okay. And so, that's kind of how I like to try to look at things, in the work that we're doing, as we continue to put those messages out there, and it just resonates through the communities, and then it spreads, and that healing is just being shared all across, our communities.
Right on. We appreciate you, Brian, and thanks for coming on with us and sharing your songs and sharing your wisdom. And I'm sure that our paths are going to cross again. And thanks for the music, man, because here we are in the middle of May and we haven't been to a powwow yet. I mean, this is messed up, So that was good to hear. It lifted my heart and my spirit to actually hear some drumming and to feel part of it again. So thank you for that. And Shannon, did you want to close out with anything?
Yes. Thanks again, Brian. I'm so grateful for you being here with us tonight. I want to make sure that we mention again the Association on American Indian Affairs, the oldest nonprofit serving Indian country. Produced this show for us and for all of you, and we hope you like it. Please be sure you comment, like, and subscribe. We need to hear from you, and we want to make sure all of our voices are heard and uplifted. We have next week's guest is going to be from the Navajo Nation, Miss Pearline Kirk, who's also a friend of mine. She's a fellow attorney, but she's also a hell of a lot smarter than me. She's also got a master's in business and she's a certified public accountant. And she knows her language, and she's a traditionalist and stays very close to her culture. So we're really looking forward to have Pearl here with us next week. And so with that, I wish you all well and take care of yourself. Stay away from each other. Love each other. And let's keep each other in our thoughts.
All right. You'll see you all next week.
Thank you, guys. See you. Have a good weekend.
All right.
And stay with us, Brian, while we shut down here.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.